Hello everyone, welcome on in. It's a new week here on the Betting Weekly Dojo, where we look ahead to the week of sports betting action, delve into some pearls of wisdom from my co-host, professional gambler Neil Channing, and answer some of your questions that you've put on your comments box below or on our Twitter handle on X. Before we go into this week's dojo, talk about what's happening this week. Please, if you are enjoying these videos, subscribe to our channel. Very important for you to subscribe to our channel. If you just hit that subscribe button, hit the like button below as well. Any comments you have, any questions you have, we will be answered here on the dojo. We come to you every Monday or every Tuesday morning. Before I introduce Neil Channing, just to say that sometimes on this show, there may be a little bit of a lag because of, as you can see, Neil's recording back in 1977 with his backdrop there, the grandfather clock, the doorbell rings, and the telephone, the landline rings. I've never heard a landline for years, but I do hear on this when everything was there. So obviously the internet isn't great, so sometimes there's a little bit of a lag. So just apologise for that in advance. Good morning, Neil. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. I'm relieved that we recorded on Tuesday this week because, of course, yesterday, very exciting times with the cricket. I don't know. I know you're not like a huge cricket fan. And obviously lots of people watching this are stateside and think cricket, what the hell is that? Slow baseball. But yeah, we had a 5-day match. It finished on the 5th day between India and England. I mean, if you're sitting in the States watching this and you're thinking, well, nobody really watches that. The whole of India was off work on Monday with the dentist appointment, trying to watch this match. And basically, they had a series of 5 games. One of them was a draw. So it was 2-1 to England coming into the 5th game. And on Sunday afternoon, England were 99% to win the match. And the match went on into Monday morning. India were now plus 450, I think they were, something like that. Plus 350 they were on Monday morning, and they got the job done. But it fluctuated wildly during the morning. Huge betting heat. Obviously, I'd faded the draw. We always fade the draw on the dojo. And at one stage, one of the reasons that I like to fade the draw is because people get very carried away. Whenever it looks like it's going to rain, they think that the match will be rained off. There was quite a bit of rain on the first day of the match. And at one stage during that period, the draw was matched at plus 125, which was easily the shortest it ever was. And it seemed like a ridiculous price. I think the draw was plus 400 at the start of the match. But fabulous scenes, including one England batsman who dislocated his shoulder. He had his arm in a sling and he had to come out to bat. He didn't actually face a ball, so he didn't actually have to hit the ball, but he had to do the running. They used to give you a runner if one guy was injured and someone would come on and be like a sort of substitute runner for you, but they don't do that anymore. So he had to sprint up and down the field with his arm in a sling. The pain on that guy's face was similar to the pain of the people that took England at minus 10,000. They were the ones that were really in pain.
Yeah, I did actually catch it. I actually watched the last bit. It was quite exciting. I didn't watch anything with the 5 days before, but in the morning I turned over and saw there was a game on, and I got quite involved. It didn't have a bet in it, but it got quite excited.
The betting market was swinging back and forward, though, wasn't it? Were you looking at the betting market as well as the game? Do you find it impossible to watch a sporting event without looking at the betting market?
Very hard, very hard indeed. Because I always want to go in with the. I mean, I've gone in. My record on cricket must be one of the worst records ever on cricket. I get in. I get in on an interest and think, okay, I'm going to bet England here, or the draw might be a bet here, or until I spoke to you, the draw never a bet. But I think I must lose more money on cricket than any other sport, all the sports combined. I don't know anything about it, and I just get in for an interest bet, and my record is awful. But talking about the draw. This week, we told everyone to fade the draw. Zimbabwe v New Zealand, you fading the draw at 40-1. Usually the draws are usually about 3-1. 40-1 the draw this week in the test.
Yeah, I think that is actually the biggest price one that I've seen. I think maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to. Someone probably correct me in the comments, but that might be the biggest price I've ever seen on the draw. Actually, obviously, I'll be fading it. We like to fade the draw. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it in every game. New Zealand are minus 800 to win this game. So, the chance of a draw pretty slim.
Now, I can always tell the week that Neil Channing's had by the mood he's in on a Monday or a Tuesday morning. And he seems to be very jovial today. And I did follow your bets at Goodwood last week, and we had a good week. I think the Saturday was pretty bad. We got the draw wrong in the big race. But other than that, we had a really, really, really good week. Some real big price winners. So I can sense that your spirits are good heading into the week.
It was a slightly funny week because Goodwood is a series of horse races across 5 days in the UK, and we just had such a good Tuesday. Tuesday was actually, I do large write-ups on each race for Betting Emporium, and Tuesday was the best day of the year so far for Betting Emporium customers. So we basically won enough money on Tuesday that we could light up a big cigar, put our feet up, and not have to do anything for the rest of the week. But of course, that's not what happened. I still got up early every morning for the rest of the week, and we did kind of give a little bit back. I think I was winning 30% on turnover at the end of Tuesday. Ended up winning 15% on turnover, but I would definitely settle for that. If I win 4% on turnover, I'm absolutely delighted. So 15%, pretty damn good. Very pleased with that.
And you can get the bets on. That's the beauty with the big meetings. You can get the bets on. You can't maintain those kind of levels because it's impossible to get the bets on the lower levels of horse racing or English soccer or whatever.
That's definitely true. Talking about lower levels of soccer, we had the soccer season's come back. Somebody said to me the other day, "Oh my God, it seems to get earlier every year." I said, "Football is like rust never sleeps. It just it creeps on you, doesn't it?" I didn't really get too involved in that. I've heard you often say you don't like to play until the first 2 or 3 games have gone and you can start to get the feel for the teams. I'm assuming you didn't have a bet on any individual matches in Div 1 and Div 2 for the first week of the season.
Well, I don't always, as you know, I don't always practice what I still. I had 4 bets, actually. Actually, I bet a couple of things that your guy put up as well. He put up one against his team. Your guy, Dave, who's a big Harrogate supporter.
Yeah, he goes to all the Harrogate games. I think when he bets against Harrogate, I tend to take notice. But he bet against Harrogate this week, and Harrogate won.
Yeah, and so I did 3, but my biggest bet won. So I think on the opening day of the season, I lost half a point, which I think is a good return on day 1 of the season. I think if you come out level, you come out slightly, you've done all right. I think I've said this to you before, but I remember speaking to back in the day. I mean, I'm old school in all my betting approach. I'm old school. I haven't moved on to the times for years and years and years. And I started off learning from who I considered the best brains, like young people who were coming out in the 90s, odds compilers. People had to do this properly, go in, research all the teams, read all the local newspapers, then put a coupon up when you could lay a bet, when you had to lay a bet. And I think that those guys are just, standard bearers for what we've got now, computer algorithms that mock up that prices. And I learned from those guys. And most of the people said you should never have a bet on any English league really until around about November. And November, December, they're the kind of times you want to get involved.
I'm not going to listen to that advice.
Well, it's very hard to do that when you run a betting tipping site. That's I didn't have
a bet on the first week, and I might not have a bet on the championship this week, and I don't know because we start with the championship, so. There are 4 professional divisions in UK soccer, and the bottom one is Division 2, weirdly. I mean, it used to be so simple. They used to just be called Divisions 1, 2, 3 and 4. So now we have the bottom one is Division 2, the third is Division 1, the second is the Championship. I'm sure people know this watching, or even if you're watching this from Brazil or India or wherever. We start with the Championship this week, and then we have the Premier next week. I sort of I really don't follow any of it. I just tail other people who are much cleverer than me and watch way more games than I do. But I do try. I sometimes get an opinion.
There you go. That's the doorbell.
There goes the doorbell.
Haven't heard the doorbell. No, I haven't heard a doorbell like that. I haven't heard a ring doorbell for 20 odd years.
It's the value police have come round. I think I will get. I sometimes get opinions in the Premier. I don't know how because I never watch any of the games. But I wanted to talk to you this
Well, hang on a
week.
minute. Hang on a minute. It's just before we. Oh, sorry, I have to interject there. This
Mm.
is the man who just he might, he has an opinion on the Premier League. Just before we recorded the show, we spoke about Isaac moving from potentially to Newcastle's Liverpool, and you never heard of him.
I've literally never heard of him. I have no idea. If you'd have said to me, there's a sports person called Isaac, if I had to guess, I'd have said women's tennis player. Although actually, I have
He's
bet on
definitely
loads.
not, does he?
I have bet on loads of women tennis matches, and that one's never come up. So I might have thought, oh, it must be a women's tennis player that I've just missed. Yeah, I wouldn't have known that was a footballer. No idea. I don't read any kind of tabloid newspapers anyway. So if they've just been hanging out in nightclubs or having illicit affairs or whatever footballers do.
These footballers are very different from 1980s and late 90s. There's nightclubs and stuff like that playing around. You're way. These aren't their health kicks. They don't even drink half these professional.
Well, it's funny. It's funny
nowadays.
You should say that about how old school I am, because somebody asked ages ago if I could talk a bit more. I think they were talking about horse racing actually, but we don't really like to make the dojo too much about horse racing because we have an international audience, and UK horse racing is quite specific to the UK, and stateside horse racing is completely different. But somebody did ask about pricing up things, and how do you arrive at your original prices? And I was thinking about that with well, just to take the Premier, because that's the football that most people know about. The Premier League's going to start the weekend after next, and the prices have been up on these games for a long time, and probably they've been slightly knocked into shape. But I find it interesting that I think when I look at the way that you bet on soccer, you're less of a numbers man and more of a feel man. And I don't mean to say that, and I'm not being rude in any way or patronising. I think there are different ways of skinning this cat, and no cats were harmed in the making of this video. But I think you can do betting and make a profit. Lots of different methodologies will work, and I get the feel that you sort of look at a set of prices and say, well, they're probably about right, and they contain all the assumptions that the market makes about which teams are better than which, and who's got the strongest home advantage, and who's got the best recent form, and what the goals are in terms of XG and that kind of thing. And you just kind of assume that stuff is fixed and given, and then you have a bet when you think that biases that are inherent in the market have not been taken account of in the prices. And I'm talking about things like recency bias. I'm talking about overvaluing a player returning or a player being out. I'm talking about scheduling things. So maybe a team's coming off of a Champions League game, or they've got a big derby fixture coming up next week, or there's a letdown spot where they had a really big win against one of their rivals, and this week they're just playing against a sort of more kind of meaningless club that they don't care about. Those kind of things, I think you factor into your methods of picking way more than a lot of people would. Is that fair to say that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, how I, as I said at the top of the show, I'm very old school in my approach to betting. I don't use any spreadsheets. I don't use any algorithms. I don't have a system. I don't have anything like that. And there's people out there who are making fortunes on it. Partly is because I'm not really that computer literate. I'm not very good at that. I can just about get on these calls and speak to you. Spreadsheets are something I don't really do. I'm not really involved in it. I'm very much, if you went around my office now, there's bits of paper everywhere, there's bets everywhere, very similar to your approach and stuff. So I'm very old fashioned in that regard. But I was brought up to basically price things up. So as people know, my father worked at Ladbrokes. He was the head of trading in the trading room at Ladbrokes back in the day. And I learned how to price markets up. And then I became an odds compiler on football and tennis, and I have priced everything up, and I do it pretty in my head. I would have a rough idea of what a price should be for any majority of tennis matches, a majority of football matches. So, you said to me, there's a match at the weekend, Brighton against Fulham. I haven't got the price in front of me. I'd guess Brighton would probably be around about, I don't know, minus 105, something like that, minus 110. And then I would have a rough idea what everyone would be. Man United against Arsenal, for example, would probably be Arsenal plus 105. But
when you pluck that price, and again, I'm not being rude, but you kind of pluck that out of the air. Brighton, I can't remember what you said now, minus 110.
Minus 105.
Yeah. So that was a kind of a plucked out of the air price. But it has to be based on something. And I think people watching this would say, well, where did he get that from? And I just thought I would kind of run through a methodology that you could use to come up with those kind of basis prices.
Well, do you know where mine come from? Where mine come from, Neil, was basically when I very, very first started in the betting industry. My first job, what I was told from the first day, was to understand every single odd and what it meant as a percentage. Mm-hmm. So I needed to know. So back in the day of football, you'd bet to 111%. Yep. So I had to know what every single price was. So 4 to 6 is 60%, 8 to 13 is 62%, 4 to 7 is 50. That's what 4 to 7. I'm showing my game.
64.
7. So 7 to 4 is 36. Take 100, 64. So you had to learn all that really, really quickly. So my odds will come as a probability of what percentage chance I think that team will win it. So I thought that they'd probably be around about a 55% chance to win that match. It'd be minus 110, minus 105. I think Arsenal will probably be around about.
But these sound like kind of gut reactions. And if I'm a new guy that's come to work in your office,
you've done it for years, haven't you?
Yeah, but sorry, go
on. This is the thing. I mean, because I've done it for many, many years. You remember I started doing this. I was 17 when I first got a job in the betting industry, and I couldn't even bet, but I had a job in the betting industry. At 18, I was working in it. At 25, I was an odds compiler in Gibraltar doing football coupons. You've done it for 35 years, so you pretty much know. And then what you don't know is when you read about teams who have been got money into them in the closed season, a new owner coming in, and then you may be a little bit out because you don't know how well they were. So how I do it very simply, I will go through all the list of the matches, and I will go through all the list of the matches, and I will look on odds comparison site, and Premier League very rarely have a bet, unless it's an Asian handicap or goals where outside factors that are considered like the weather or things like that. I would look at the match and I would write down on my note on my phone or on a bit of paper, whatever, the 10 games where I've got my edges, my price is different to the fixed odds. Sometimes it could be 12, sometimes it could be 15, but the majority is about 8 to 10 a week. And I might be even money someone who they might be minus 130, or I might be minus 130, someone who's plus 110. I could sometimes be that far out. And then I break them down. Then I go back and break them down and look at that game. Why am I wrong? What's the wrong? And I eliminate 5 or 6 of them. And 3 of them I leave and say, well, then I'm happy about that price. I think that price is wrong. I'm happy to bet that price. And most of the time, the line will go with me.
If I'm unlucky enough to need to get a job, but I'm lucky enough to get a job as being the apprentice in Nigel Seeley's office, and I turn up on Monday morning and you say to me, well, I'm just pricing up the matches for the weekend. How do you explain to me how you do it other than, well, I've been doing it for years, I know what the prices are. So that you can now take a week off and I can take over next week.
Right. Well, the thing is different for me is now I don't have to do that because nobody's betting on my odds. So
sure. No, I'm hypothetically, obviously.
But if we were a bookmaker, the technology now that people have, they don't even have to worry about it because they put them into a system. And most of it, let's be honest with you, most of these are computers. But if most of them are generated by a computer, but for me, I would first thing I would say to anybody, you have to learn your percentages. You have to know what a percentage is to a price. That's the most important thing. a draw price in a football match is pretty commonly around about 5-2, so 28.5
plus 250, 28%.
Plus 250. Yeah, so you know that. So you 28% of your book is going to be on your draws. Sometimes you can move it up if you've got a short price favourite. You can move it up. So that's 28% of your book, and then you've got to get your other margin around that thing, around whatever margin you're betting to now, probably about 104, 105%. So then you've got 28% out, and you can allocate the other percentage to the two other teams. So you need to know your percentage to the odds. That's the most important thing. Then obviously you have to go through the team news. You have to go through weather conditions. You have to go through suspensions. You have to break out the starting 11, who's missing, how important that particular player is to anybody. These are all the kind of things you'll have to do. And that's my second stage. So my first stage is I think this price is wrong. And then my second stage is to break them all down into 7 or 8 different factors. And then if 5 ticks of the 7 or 8 factors are still there, and it's suddenly, I didn't realise he's out. Especially in the lower leagues, I didn't realise he's out. He's responsible for 55% of their goals. Michael Cheek, for example, at Bromley, if he doesn't play, where are they going to score goals? So that makes a big difference. I didn't know he was injured, but he's injured for 3 matches. So that's the reason why the price is. But sometimes when I can't find out why the prices are, why the price isn't wrong, then I bet it. So I would really urge anybody to understand their percentages. I would urge anybody to perhaps do a ranking system, especially on tennis.
So yeah, basically the way I would do it is that the first thing to do is to put the teams in a ranked order. So obviously you can look in the betting market, and we know that Liverpool, the current champions, are the favourites. Arsenal are the second favourites. Man City are the third favourites. So we're going to just assume that market is all right, and we're going to put the teams in order. But now if we want to, and we start with Liverpool as favourites, we'll give them a rating of 0. And then we add 0.1 of a goal all the way down. So I'm not necessarily saying that Arsenal are 0.1 of a goal worse than Liverpool. Some of the gaps between the teams will be bigger. So, for example, the gap between Man City and Chelsea is more than 0.1, and the gap between Chelsea and Man United is more than 0.1, and the gap between Man United and Newcastle is more than 0.1. But you can sort of jiggle about with it there and get yourself an order, and then work like that. Now, if we take a match with 2 teams who we can say are equal, now this is not me saying they're equal, this is the market. Newcastle and Tottenham are considered by the market to have an equal chance of winning this year's Premier. So if Newcastle and Tottenham play each other on a neutral venue, there's no favourite. With no draw, the match is pick 'em. It's each of 2. We can't decide who's going to win. Now, obviously, they don't play on a neutral venue very often. One team is generally going to be at home. And the team that's at home, just looking over the years, and I think we've discussed this before, home field advantage in all football is not as big as it used to be. And that's notable in the Premier. So we can say that the home team advantage is going to be 0.3. And roughly speaking, if you so if we price the game to 100%, 2 equal teams, as you said, the draw is always 5-2 or 28%. So we've got 72% to divide between the other 2, and it's pick 'em, so they're 36 each. So I hope that made sense. 36 plus 36 plus 28 is 100. And 36%, as you said earlier, is 7-4 in old-fashioned odds, or plus 175 in American odds, or 2.75 in decimalised odds, however you like to phrase it. So we can say that a match between Newcastle and Tottenham on a neutral venue will be 7-4 each of 2, and 5-2 the draw. If we make one of the sides the home side, then we need to make them a 0.3 favourite for the home advantage. So the way we express that in odds is that we make, for each 0.1, we go a price lower for this is quite a rough way of doing it, a price lower for the home team and a price higher for the away team. So the home team here, if you say a price lower, 30, I'm thinking in terms of racecourse odds always, old-fashioned bookmaking. So I mean, obviously in decimalised or American odds, it's slightly different. But if we think 7-4, the next price down is 13-8, the next price down is 6-4, the next price down is 11-8. We end up with plus. Help me out with 11-8
Plus
in America.
135. Plus 135.
Yeah, plus 135 for the home team. And the away team goes up 3 ticks, 50 up 3 notches, 15-8, 2-1, 9-4, so plus 225. So in that situation, to 100%, the draw stays the same at plus 250. The away team is plus 225, and the home team is plus 135. And if you add that up, that comes to roughly 100. Hopefully, comes to 100%. So that's how I would go about, rating the teams and using those ratings to make a price. Now you can work backwards from that. You could look and say, well, the week 1 fixtures, we've got a list of prices that are as old as the hills. They've been betting on the week 1 fixtures in the Premier for at least 6 or 8 weeks now, and those prices are quite solid. And you can find 2 teams who are in that situation where they look to be about even, like a Newcastle Tottenham situation, and you can work back and say, well, they must be rated exactly the same, so on my ratings I'll make them the same. But you could definitely extrapolate a rating from the prices, and that will give you a basis for the season, so that before you've seen any prices, if you go on Odds Checker and no one's priced up yet, you've got a sort of base price for where things are. Now, when the prices go up, you could look and say, well, hang on a minute, my rating said that was going to be plus 135, plus 225, those two. But Tottenham at home are plus 120. What's going on there? And Newcastle away are plus 350. Is that because there's been a player change, or is it because of bad vibes or whatever about one of them? Is it because of an overreaction in the market? Is it because of a fashionable bias that Spurs are a bit more fashionable than Newcastle? And you could start to then put your kind of interpretations, the kind of things that you like when you're picking matches into it. But I think you have to have that basis to start with. So hopefully I explain that in a way that people can understand without being too technical. But I do think certainly putting the teams into some kind of order and then kind of working out what the gap between each team should be is a really good starting point before you do anything else.
I'm just looking at those teams you mentioned. Obviously, we do a rating system which is available on the Betting Weekly Studios newsletter, which you can get, and the Insider on a Friday. So if you want to look at the ratings for the teams across Europe, it's on the Betting Weekly Insider. And they also do tennis ratings. And what they are is obviously you rate the top player in the world 100. Say someone was rated 50, a tennis player, you're basically saying you'll be minus $2 and $2 against a 50 a shot. And it's a percentage chance of the person beating that team or that player to 100%. So if you had a rating of 100 for Liverpool and rating for 50 for Chelsea, for argument's sake, you would say that Liverpool and Chelsea playing in the FA Cup final at Wembley, Chelsea would be minus $2 and Chelsea would be plus $2. Liverpool will be minus $2 to lift the trophy. And those rating systems are available on our newsletter Insider, which you can subscribe to at bettingweeklystudios.com. But let me just put it this way to you. Now, the props and the derivatives from those markets. Now, that works on a standard week-to-week basis where, you just, and the most important thing about rating systems, and this is the most important thing, you've got to adjust them week on week. You can't just stick with them. Then things change, and you've got to be about changing around the form, and some teams sell players, and you've got to adjust your rating system. When you've got a team like Manchester United and Tottenham, you said, and Newcastle, who are rated pretty much exactly the same. I'm looking at the futures markets here. They're both around 50-1 to win the Premier League. But when you go into the top 4 market, Newcastle are plus 175, 7-4, and Tottenham are 5-1. So they're almost 3 times the price.
Wow. Well, that is interesting.
To finish in the top 4. Now, what points it? What's the difference between that and a rating system where you say they're both 50-50? Obviously, I suppose with Tottenham, the reason people think it is the letdown factor. They could either finish 17th or 4th, whereas Newcastle you'd probably say they can finish 4th or 8th. But it seems a big separation, doesn't it?
Well, that's interesting you should say that. A good example of that, actually, I know we don't often talk about politics betting on this programme, but there's a situation in politics betting at the moment in the UK where the market on who gets the most seats in the next general election, the Conservative Party, who have been in government for more years than any other party, are just over 5-1 to get the most seats in the next election. Now, the Liberal Democrat Party, who have not been in government since they were called the Liberal Party over 100 years ago, are priced at around about 50-1 to get the most seats. But there's a match bet between the two on who will get the most seats. And in the match bet, the Conservative Party are 6-4 or -150, whereas the Liberal Democrats are 6-5 against +120. Now, if you heard that one was 5-1 and one was 50-1, you wouldn't think it was that close, would you? You would think that that sounds like way too close a match bet for a 5-1 up against a 50-1. But the reason is because the Conservative Party have a much more volatile range of outcomes. They could do really well or really badly, whereas the Liberal Democrat Party will probably just kind of plod along roughly where they are. And that's obviously the sort of situation that's happening in this Newcastle-Tottenham one, where one of them has high volatility. They could have a really good season, but they could just be awful. Whereas the other one, we pretty much know where they're going to finish. So that'll explain that one. But I do think you make an interesting point, because I heard a professional football gambler on a podcast a few months ago, and he was saying that one thing he likes to do, and this is a good pointer for people sitting watching at home, is that he likes to look at the week-to-week markets, the individual match markets, and assume that they're right, and then look at the long-term markets, and those calculations I was doing with the ratings, he sort of does them backwards from the match markets and says, well, hang on a minute, that means that the outright prices must be wrong. And his assumption is that the Asian handicaps knocking those match markets into place every week with billions of pounds being traded on them worldwide will always be roughly correct. But the futures markets, which are, priced up by the office caretaker and have very limited liquidity, and not many people are betting on the FA Cup on the first week of August. And we said that last year with the FA Cup. People take their eye off of some of the futures markets and don't think about them and don't update them week to week. And he said, well, I like to play on the futures markets using the individual match odds to make sure my ratings are super sharp. And I really liked that. I thought that was quite a good idea, and I can see a lot of merit in that.
Yeah, that definitely is the case here. I mean, if you look at, I suppose the thing that I always look for as well when I'm looking at future markets as well is that the midpoint of the spreads. The spread betting firms across in the UK, their midpoint of the spreads. Obviously, they're seeing two-way business buyers and sellers, and that is a good indication for match bets futures. If you pit two teams against each other,
I sort of agree with you. The problem is, of course, that spread betting in the UK used to be such a bigger market. And you could look at so the spread betting companies will have a bid offer price, as if it's like a financial market. So they may have, I'm probably going to get the numbers wrong now. I haven't looked at the market at all this year, but they might have Tottenham points at 63.5, 65. And you can
sell.
Have I said it way too high? You can either go over 65 or under 63.5, and you get paid out per point. Now, in the old days, those markets would be, second by second updated. I'm sure they are still, but they would be backed up by huge liquidity. You knew for a fact that if the price moved by just 1 point, somebody would immediately come in and play £1,000 a point, buying and selling all day long. I'd imagine the guy that's running that book sees like one order every 3 hours now, even with just 2 weeks till the season to go. And maybe I don't want to rely on them quite so much for judging my fixed odds. Do you think that's right, or you still think there's enough in there to make it worth looking?
I don't think the market is there anywhere, but I would always trust the systems that they use. I think their data. analytical stuff that
their
they
traders are smart.
Their models, I think their models is so good that I would always looking for a backup reference. But my point is that Tottenham this season are actually 58.5 points, so their midpoint is about 58 points.
It wasn't a terrible guess, was it, for someone that hasn't done any homework?
Newcastle are 61.5, so Newcastle have a midpoint of about just one win ahead, which suggests that the top four finish of plus 175 and 5-1 for Newcastle it's quite a big.
That is a big difference, isn't it?
I quite like it. It's a big difference. I think 5-1 Tottenham or Man United to break. I mean, the top four is dominated by Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, and Chelsea. They're all minus money, but Newcastle could have a massively impact because the player that you're unaware of, they may have sold for 150 million. The world record fee, Neil, he could be gone.
The other thing that you sometimes get opportunities is to bet match bets between different teams, and I'd imagine those two have been set up in a match bet. And it sounds like, some bookmakers might look and think, well, they're both 50-1 to win the title. We could just go pick them on the match bet. And maybe one of them should be a little bit more of a favourite there.
Interesting markets. Load of different markets on the Premier League available on the BetRivers website and on the app. If you download the app, you'll see a huge amount of markets. There is match bets there. There's finishing position, total points, relegation, top goal scorer. The whole lot is covered on the BetRivers app, the most extensive coverage on the English Premier League across America, available on the BetRivers app as well. Neil, I don't feel before we wrap up, I mean, sort of going through our prices there. I mean, I'm traditionally old school. I mean, the trouble is I haven't got enough time now to do rankings. I know my days of odds compilation and training in trading rooms have long gone, and I'll never step back in there. But it's a great exercise if anybody wants to learn how to do it. Look at these rating systems that Neil said there. Rate a team. Great advice. 0.1 differential down from a price. If you're a 0.2, 0.3 favourite, you move it down a price or up a price another way. The only one thing where that suddenly gets a little bit blurry is when obviously you get a heavier price favourite. The draw gets bigger as well.
Yeah, the draw. You're exactly right. Gets bigger. Yeah, I mean, I was saying that for matches where the draw's plus 250, which is kind of a roughly good price to say that the draw is in all games. But obviously, in games where the goal expectation is 2 or under, then the draw should be closer to plus 200. In games where the goal expectation is maybe 4.5, which, we had games last year between, I can't remember who the big scoring teams were. Was it Wolves and Brighton and Spurs, I think. I think they were the highest scoring teams always the big goal expectation teams. Sometimes the draw in their games would be nearer to plus 300, plus 350 even. So you definitely have to slightly factor that in. And obviously, if it's a high scoring match between two exactly ranked teams, well then on a neutral venue you couldn't have plus 175 twice. You'd have to have plus 150 twice. To make it 100%. But it's I was giving you kind of back of a cigarette packet calculations, but I do think if you haven't got some kind of basis to work on, how do you know whether recency bias has overly affected the price or whether the fashionability, if that's a word, of one of the fashionableness of one of the two teams, you got a fashionable team against an unfashionable team. Is the market overreacting to one of them being a popular London team and the other one being a plucky bunch of Northerners? We don't know unless we can put some numbers on it. How do we know whether the market's overreacting?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And if you want to do that, you got anything to add to that, or if you have any questions you want to do, just ask Neil or myself on the questions box. There are a few questions that we have had, but we'll answer the questions probably next week on a separate show. Just going back to the draw in football, I don't know if you realised, League One last weekend, there was 12 matches in League One, not one draw.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, like as every year, goal expectations seem to go up. Not in all divisions, but, generally speaking, over the last 10 years in football, there's way more goals being scored. And the more goals there are, the less draws there'll be.
Yeah, no draws at all. So it may be a thing of the plus 250 and the draws. This is suddenly becoming an anti-draw show, whether it's cricket, whether it's draws in League One, whatever it is.
Champions League as well last year. There were very few draws in the Champions League, weren't there?
Yeah, in that new start of the Champions League. Talking of the Champions League, that returns this week on Betting Weekly Live. All the team will be available at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, giving you all the best odds for the Champions League matches and the Europa League matches as well later in read. Betting Weekly Tennis Live is also live through Monday through to Wednesday in the build-up to the US Open. It's a big week of tennis action with the 1000 event in Cincinnati. And myself and Sean will be previewing that tomorrow alongside. And also, Roy Girani will be previewing the women's draw as well in Cincinnati before the big tournament of the year stateside, the US Open, starts at the end of this month. Neil, what else is happening? Anything happening this week? Any big events? Any big betting events for you to be getting involved? Or is it just a bit of a rest up now?
Well, I'm having a slightly quieter week after a big horse racing week last week, but I've got that big cricket match to look forward to. New Zealand,
yes, yep.
That's going to be a corker, and it's probably there's always something to be looking at. I might, I'm no expert on the soccer, but I'll definitely be having some bets this weekend, I should think, when the championship gets going, and I have a few guys sending me various things that I ought to be doing. I'll probably agree with them. I'm sure I'll be having a listen to Rory and Sean's advice on the tennis this week.
Yeah, championship starts this weekend. Big match on Friday. The favourites for the league, Ipswich, away at the third favourites, Birmingham. So a big marker already in match on one. Lots of people are telling me about Ipswich. I know they're 3-1, but a lot of people are telling me that Ipswich are too good for this division. Good manager and tick every box. That's a lot to tie up, isn't it? But Ipswich open up the season on Friday night. Bet Rivers will have it covered, and we'll also have it covered for you here on Betting Weekly Live on Friday. Birmingham v Ipswich. My team QPR in action against Preston. I don't think that could be a low-scoring affair, and lots of action as well in League One, League Two, where you want to be taking on the draws in League One. No draws last week in 12 matches. Neil, thanks very much always for your time. Very interesting chat today about how you price up some futures and learning. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been in a trading. I'm thinking about it when we were speaking earlier. It's got to be like 25 years ago that I actually traded any.
I had to go back and try and remember how to do it. Actually, it took me a bit of thinking. I couldn't remember.
No, very interesting. Anyway, take care. Have a great week, Neil. Good luck with your bets. Thanks for watching here. But I also said at the top of the show, please hit that subscribe button. Please do join us. And as I said earlier as well, please subscribe to the Betting Weekly Studios newsletter and the Insider. The Insider does have our exclusive rankings on tennis. We have boxing rankings on there. And a little bit of the show today, you'll understand how those rankings work. And hopefully you can use them to profit on this season's soccer season, which starts at the weekend in the championship. Take care, all the very best, and we'll be back again next week here on the Betting Weekly Dojo.